Hey, welcome to Mondays with Ryan. That's Ryan G. Hensley. I'm Grant L. Cohn. Sort of an instant reaction episode because John Lynch just spoke, did his pre-draft press conference. I just got home. We all watched it, and it's time for us to react instantly. We've had a little time to digest it. We've had some digestion time.
Yeah.
Time on the couch, feet up, thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to talk about Brandon Aiyuk, Ryan. He came in real respect. He was like, respectfully. I don't want to talk about that. Everyone was like, cool. I got some questions about Brandon Aiyuk.
Right.
Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, what were your takeaways? There were some things he would answer. There were some things he wouldn't.
You got to kind of read between the lines on these ones, right? Because you have to keep in mind, like, obviously, he doesn't want to give away what he's doing. So you can't, honestly, you really can't trust anything he says in this press conference. Like, he could be, maybe he's just being honest against his will, because I'm sure he doesn't really want to give away anything he's going to be doing. So
I have mind control over John Lynch. Mind control.
Right.
He has to tell the truth when I ask him a question.
So maybe he had slipped up and told a couple truths in there, but really, like, he's strategizing, right? But whatever he's saying in the press this week, you got to understand, you got to think about why is he saying what he's saying. So did we learn anything about the Brandon Aiyuk situation? Not really. No. It could go either way still. I don't know.
Let's recap real quick for the people that didn't hear. He said that, yes, teams have called. Well, first he said he'd like to have Aiyuk be a 49er for life. He said the same thing about Buckner, though. So that kind of rings hollow. I mean, it's nice. It's a nice thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to have him if, money weren't an issue. He said that teams have been calling. Yes, teams call for every player. He was asked point blank by Matt Mayoko, have you given Aiyuk permission to seek a trade, which is what they did for DeForest Buckner? And John Lynch said, I don't want to answer that question. It was the one question.
That means yes.
Wouldn't answer.
Yeah.
Which to me is yes. That's a yes, but I don't want to make it a headline because Niner fans will freak out. So I think it's fair to assume that Brandon Aiyuk is working the phones, has had permission to do like somewhat, I don't know if it's tampering or whatever you want to call it, but he has permission. And then at the end, John was asked, would you anticipate Aiyuk not being on this team on Friday? And Lynch said, I wouldn't anticipate that, which is an answer. And it also sort of leaves the door open to me.
Yeah, and he also compared it to the Deebo situation, right? Like, we were at this point with Deebo, basically, and he still was on the team. So he compared it to that too. So there is really like two ways you can take it, but ultimately I think it boils down to kind of what I've been feeling this whole time, which is basically they want to keep Brandon Aiyuk, but with the right offer, they'll move from him, which is probably the case with almost every player on the 49ers. So yes, they'll listen to it, and if somebody wants him and they go high enough, they will definitely trade Brandon Aiyuk. But in general, I think they would like to keep him.
Well, let's come back to something you said just a second ago. You said it's true of almost every player on the Niners. Almost, but it wasn't true of Nick Bosa last year.
Yeah.
Right? Bosa was the one going through this last year, and we asked about this during the pre-draft press conference, and John was always so like, he's going to be here. But don't worry about it. Like, there is no consideration of trading it. Not like I wouldn't anticipate it. Like, no, Nick Bosa is going to be here, and I think obviously Brandon Aiyuk doesn't have that kind of a resume or isn't that kind of a caliber of a player, but that's what it sounds like when the guy's definitely saying. To me, it sounds a little bit like, well, I mean, like he could be saying, we let Brandon look for a trade. He hasn't come back with anything great yet. Or it could be, we let Brandon look for a trade. He found something, and we're not going to talk about it 3 days before the freaking draft. Like, you'll find out.
Well, with Nick Bosa, for one, he was Defensive Player of the Year, right, going into that season. The other thing is, what do the 49ers value the most outside of quarterback? It's pass rush. So you're talking about the Defensive Player of the Year at the second most valuable position in their mind, which is pass rush. That is kind of why Nick Bosa wasn't even an option. I don't think they're like want to find a trade partner for Brandon Aiyuk. I think they will trade him if it's high enough. I don't know if they'll get that necessarily, but I also just think in general they would like to keep him. And they're going to be moving off. I really believe they're going to be moving off of Deebo next year anyways. I think they want to keep Brandon Aiyuk, but they will move him for the right option, right? For the right possibility, for enough draft capital in return, they will move him.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, the agent came involved. Like, there's two teams that are confirmed to be pursuing Brandon Aiyuk: Pittsburgh Steelers, Jacksonville Jaguars. And there was some further reporting on the Steelers. Guy from Fan Nation, All Steelers, Noah Strackbean, said this. A team source with the Steelers said that they kind of anticipate that they're going to get Aiyuk. And then finally, that's what the agent jumped in and said that's erroneous. Okay, all right. Well, I've been saying last couple days I think it's going to be the Jaguars. I don't have a team source saying it, but I'm saying I think it's going to be the Jaguars for their team. And the agent doesn't ever correct me on Twitter. Hasn't said anything about it. I'm waiting for him to say, no, there's nothing going on between the Jaguars and the 49ers, but I haven't heard him say that yet.
Right. And you know what's funny, man? After I saw you put that out, and I just ran a draft scenario as the Jaguars. What was funny is the 49ers offered a whole bunch of picks to move up and get the Jaguars spot. So, I mean, for whatever that's worth, PFN sometimes puts some unpredictable things. The problem, like, if the 49ers trade Brandon Aiyuk with the intention of getting Fatanu, right?
What if he's not there?
He might not be. I like that. I think
that's
the Titans. The Titans could want him. The Raiders could want him. The Saints could. Miami.
Yep.
So I don't even know if that's going to be a possibility for the 49ers. They're going to have to move up real high to get that. I just don't. And here's the other thing. He kind of hinted at this, which I thought definitely relates to Brandon Aiyuk too. He was asked about drafting tackles in this draft, and he kind of hinted basically like looking at interior guys and not necessarily guys that are going to start week one, guys that can start in the future. And he immediately tied those two things together. So I could see the 49ers not getting a tackle early like a lot of us want, unless Rosengarten drops in round 2. That I think is a for sure lock if he's there in round 2. But my point is, I don't know if the 49ers would move up to get a tackle because that's really not a priority for them ever. So if they're going to move Brandon Aiyuk to
because Trent Williams got to be 36. And if at a certain point you got to plan for life after Trent Williams and get a legit left tackle. And I feel like at this point with Trent Williams, you kind of need to be thinking year to year. Like, he's good now, but when is he going to fall apart? I mean, it happens. It happened to Joe Staley suddenly. It happens to players suddenly. So far, so good with Trent Williams, but this is a unique opportunity to move up and get a legit franchise all-pro left tackle. Like, when's the next time the Niners are going to get that opportunity? If they're as good as they think they are consistently, they're not going to be drafting up there. They got Brandon Aiyuk now.
Yeah.
To your point, let's say they get 17 from the Jaguars. It's no guarantee that Fatana's there or any offensive tackle that they really want. So maybe that's why we're not hearing about it now. Like, maybe they really need to wait until Jacksonville's on the clock to see which tackles are available and if they want to do it. Because if Fatano's gone and Fuaga's gone and Latham's gone, then what are you trading up for? Another wide receiver? Like, maybe just keep.
And there's a couple things too. The Jags might want Fatanu themselves, which is another reason to consider would it happen. But you and I want the 49ers. I really would. This is something I would do. I would move up and get a tackle in the first round if I was the 49ers. And that's what makes me think they're not going to do it, because it seems like what the priorities that I have for the 49ers never seem to match up with what the 49ers have for the 49ers. And to me, it's right tackle is the clear priority for me. But I think the 49ers will probably go D tackle round 1 or a wide receiver.
Maybe.
Those are the two positions I think they will go after, not what I would go after, but I think that's what they will end up getting.
What are the positions they've drafted in the top 20 since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have been here? D tackle, D end, offensive tackle, and quarterback. Those are the 4, right? They've never taken a wide receiver top 20.
Right.
So if they were to trade Aiyuk for 17, I just don't see him taking a wide receiver there. I mean, maybe it could happen. Maybe they could take a tight end. I mean, history would suggest they're moving up for an offensive tackle. If they do, someone they think that can play. And what's cool about Fatanu to me is he could start at right guard or right tackle. You could play him wherever you need him and then eventually move him to left tackle when Trent Williams is done. That's what's interesting about him. But as you say, he may not be there at 17, which is why this whole thing could be, not set in
I would
stone.
love them to. I would love them to go up and get a right tackle. That would be huge, especially a guy that can move up. But like Byron Murphy is a defensive tackle that might be the best defensive player in this draft. And if he's available around 17, they might move up to get him and get a Rosengarten after that. I could see that happening. The 49ers have not shown me that they prioritize offensive line enough to move up and get an offensive line. But I would love to be wrong about that. I really would, because
let me counter that. Let me counter that. I have a quick counter argument for that.
All right.
They spent the 9th pick in the draft on Mike McGlinchey.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, so
let me make another case for Troy Fautanu. When you look at his draft profile on NFL.com, the first thing they talk about, great fit in outside zone. And another thing with him, if you compare his combine numbers to Trent Williams, they're quite similar. Now, he's not Trent Williams. He's about an inch shorter. Their arm length is the same. Their broad jump is the same. Their vert is about the same. I think Trent Williams ran a 4.88 and Fautanu ran a 5 flat. I mean, you're not going to find the Williams, but you could find someone close.
I would go nuts if they actually did it. That's what I want them to do. So, no one has to convince me that would be a smart thing to do. I would do it. I just don't see the 49ers doing it. I think they are more interested in Rosengarten, but not in the first round. Like, I think they want to come up on that guy somehow because he's a scheme fit for the 49ers. And they think they can probably get him later. And therefore they can use their first round pick to address another position. That's what I think.
When Deebo was requesting a trade, and this was an issue 2 years ago, weren't the Niners holding out for something ridiculous? Like, didn't they say they wanted 2 first-round picks? Couldn't they have gotten number 10 or number 13 or something like that from the Jets, Deebo, and they turned it down? Is that true? Couldn't they have gotten something in the middle of round 1, kind of like what the Titans got for AJ Brown? They could have got something 17, and they felt that wasn't enough. Would they take that for Aiyuk? I think they would.
I think it's possible. I mean, there's a lot of smoke around this. There's a lot of smoke around this, dude.
Yeah.
There really is a lot of smoke. Yeah. And usually, the expression is where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke around this. So I would not be surprised if it ends up happening. Don't think I'm saying this is not going to happen. It could definitely happen. If they do it, it's probably going to be for like a defensive tackle or a wide receiver. Honestly, that's what I think. Just because, I mean, they went through the whole draft last year and didn't draft one single offensive lineman. And all of a sudden now they need to move up and get one after extending Colton McKivitz. Maybe. I would love it. I just don't see it.
I mean, the way they could sell this if it happens, let's say Fautanu is available at 17 and they make the trade. And they come out, people are like, well, what are you talking? You said that you didn't think this was going to happen. They're like, well, we didn't think Fautanu would be available. We have this guy ranked. You have no idea. It's like the highest graded offense. I mean, they could do that, right? We just didn't think it was going to happen. And maybe they don't. Maybe they've told Aiyuk, like, look, Jacksonville 17, that's great. Like, if a certain offensive tackle is available that we want, we'll do it. But we don't really think he's going to be there. And we're not really interested in trading you for another wide receiver or a tight end. Could be possible. So maybe there's a 30% chance that Fautanu's available and they'll take him, or maybe that's the only guy they'd want. Maybe that's the only guy they feel would fit their scheme. But
yeah,
I think the
door is
open.
At 17 and the Jags offer it, I could see it happening. Yeah, I think the Jags possibly could want Fautanu themselves, and I also think he could be long gone before they get an opportunity. So those are the things that are holding me back from buying in completely. But again, I think the 49ers are 100% open to trading. I think it's more likely they go after like a D tackle or something with their first pick than an offensive lineman, even if they trade up.
Yep. Let's take some supers. John Grosler says, feel he mentioned drafting for the future a lot when asked. He said there's not a lot of needs. This tends to scare me with our blatant needs. We talk about that. We have a topic on that one. Mark Salas says, what OTs would Niners take in round 1?
Fautanu, right? I don't know if Yeah, they met with Kingsley, but I don't know if they really believe that. I mean, Jordan Morgan, those are the guys that'll be there for sure. They'd move up and get Latham if they could, but that's going to be they'd have to move way up the board to do that. So I, I think the smart play is wait on Roger Rosengarten. If you want to tackle, I think they really like this dude. They might trade back and get a Roger Rosengarten and get a couple other picks.
They could do that.
With it.
They could do that. Yeah, if they're getting a right tackle, they could trade back. If they're trying to get a left tackle for the future, they'll trade up.
Yeah.
JC Latham is great, but I don't know if this really fits their scheme. Matt McEwen, I would love to see a top center, JPJ or Barton.
That's another thing, and then he hinted at that, right? Talking about drafting interior linemen, you can get if you're ranking, tackles 1 through 20 and centers 1 through 20, guards 1 through 20, you can get a higher ranked center and guard at 31 than you could a tackle. So to me, if they get an offensive line, that's probably the direction they'll go.
Dreams 24 says Lynch thanking God for Purdy and Disson Lance. Meanwhile, we still lost the bull. No matter who's the quarterback, Kyle still chokes.
He actually said Trey Lance has a lot of football. I believe Trey Lance has a lot of good football left in him. He said that. So I didn't get the insult on Trey.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, sorry about the audio issues, guys. It's definitely my laptop. I bought this about 6 months ago. It's a HP, and I feel like it sucks ass. I think that's my assessment. So I'm thinking about getting a Mac. Do you have a Mac?
I use a Mac.
You use a Mac? Is it good?
Yeah, get the bigger one. I got the AirBook, and you can only plug in two. You can only have one monitor, and that's killing me. So
which one would you get?
Whatever's next step after that, I'm not sure, but it works great though. I love having a Mac.
Yeah, I mean, I like this laptop when I have to not stream, but like when it's time to stream, I think it pretty much sucks ass, which isn't good. It's not what you want.
That's the technical definition.
Yeah, it's a technical term. Christian Ayala says Huff for a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Not coming off a torn knee right now.
I think Elijah Mitchell might be on the block and Ambry Thomas. I don't know about Huff.
MGM Production says, how much value does the 5th-year option add to our pick in a trade, considering it's so late in the round?
That's why I think like. So let me backtrack. Defensive tackle, you can get a good defensive tackle at 31. You can get a really good center or guard at 31. And if you're gonna draft him in the 1st round so you can get that 5th-year option, I think that's the direction you go, as opposed to, and again, unless they move up, like you said, maybe that's what they do.
16-inch MacBook Pro is what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Do it. I got a MacBook Pro, actually. Get the one. I don't know. I got a MacBook Pro and only has 2 inputs. And, what was it, like 1,400, something like that?
Okay.
And but this one I can only have one monitor.
Yeah,
I only have one monitor. That sucks. I need like 3 personally.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be. I see what you mean. Yeah. That'll be the next MacBook Pro Max. People are saying, I'm telling you.
There you go.
They didn't even say why. I'm telling you.
I didn't get the Max. That's what you need.
Go with Mac if you like your mouse having one button.
I do. I enjoy it. One button.
All right. More things from the John Lynch press conference.
Yeah.
He said that he gave 22 1st-round grades out. They have picked 31. 22 players. They have high standards. 22 players in this draft are legitimately worth being drafted in round 1. And on top of that, only 16 received gold helmets, which are the best of the best of the best of the best. Those are the players who not only blue chip athletes, but blue chip people. And their characters off the charts. And the Niners are definitely equipped to gauge this because they thought Alden Smith was a gold helmet player once upon a time. So anyway, the players they're most proud of, like they drafted Reuben Foster in round 1, but he wasn't a gold helmet player. They kind of made an exception for him. So that's where they stand.
Yeah.
They're at pick 31. How does that make you feel about their positioning?
Well, it tells me that if they don't trade up and they're at 31, they're not going to if they can't trade up high enough, right? And who knows what these players are, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's the NFL's top 22. It could be the Niners have their own ratings for these guys, and I'm sure they do. So I don't know. It just leads me to believe if they get to like the 22-ish range, they're not going to trade Brandon Aiyuk for somebody that they don't grade. If they can't get one of those 22 guys, they're not trading BA to anybody, because why would you? Right? Like that's kind of what it means to me. It's not a lot of players, honestly. And I think they said that's kind of the number they go with. They had that many last year, I think 22. So it's interesting. I think me personally, I mean, what do I know? I'm just a guy in his office talking 49ers. But when I look at this draft, it seems a lot better than that to me. It seems a lot deeper. But again, this is John Lynch is not giving away his hand right now in this.
But I think what he's doing is kind of painting himself into a corner. It's like, okay, so let's say they stay put at 31. Let's go through these 3 scenarios, right? You stay put at 31, you trade up, you trade down. Stay put at 31. Make the pick. Then you do the press conference that night. I come out and I say, okay, John, was this guy one of your 22 first-round grades?
Of course
and he's going to say, yeah. Let's say they take Roger Rosengarten in round 1 or some guy, and everyone's like, well, that was a little bit of a reach. Then we say, you have such high standards, right? Only 22 first-round grades. This guy was one of them. And then if he says, yeah, it's like, do people believe you? I'm not going to call him a liar, but it's like it kind of brings up that question. So it makes it tough to stand pat at 31 to me. That now that he said this, trading up to 17 or to 25 and say, we got at 25, this was one of our top 22 players because we didn't have some of the quarterbacks rated that high or whatever. Like that makes sense. Trading down at around 1 altogether makes sense, but staying at 31 seems tough now that he revealed this information.
He did say what 35 are starters, right? 35 starters. Is that what he says?
No, he was talking about that was different. He said that there were 80 something players that their front office anticipated would declare for this year's draft that didn't. And 35 of them were projected starters in the NFL. So and we're going to talk about that issue next, the totality of what they're picking from. But right now I want to focus on the first round.
I mean, I see your argument, man. If there's only 22 players, but is that true? Does he really feel that way? And does that mean because his 22, are they the same as the NFL's 22? He even mentioned that it's not necessarily the case. We don't care how the NFL looks at these players. We give them our own grade based on what we see. I think it's a little bit of a bluff. I honestly think they like Roger Rosengarten. I think they have a first round grade on that guy, but they're not going to grab him in the first.
It's just that's incredible to me. Like to say we have high standards. We have 22 first round grades, and to stay at 31 and to take someone that like the rest of the league kind of sees as a second round pick and say, yeah, this was one of our top players. I don't know.
He's not going to say no to you, right? If you ask him, was this guy a gold standard player or one of your top 22? He's absolutely
no, but your credibility is going to look a little thin if that guy's not good.
Yeah, that's true.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I think they go defensive tackle first round, Roger Rosengarten second round. That's what I think. At some point they might
see that for
move up,
and it's possible that some defensive tackle who's really good falls to 31 because so many teams are focused on getting wide receivers and offensive tackles and quarterbacks. It's possible.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, Hall sometimes falls down. Byron Murphy falls down. Darius Robinson. I did a mock draft with Croc this morning. That's Croc's favorite player in this draft. He'll be available. He could be edge or D tackle. So there's a lot of guys that I think the 49ers are going to be excited about on the defensive line at that spot. I think that's where they go.
I do think the first team's interested in the gold helmets because I keep coming back to the Jaguars. And theoretically, if you get that pick from the Jaguars, you get a gold helmet player. So
it would not surprise me.
Was Brandon Aiyuk a gold helmet player? I don't know about that. At pick 25, I don't know about that. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
To me, he is. If I had to give out a gold helmet to people on this team, Brandon Aiyuk would get one for whatever it's worth. Brandon,
they didn't make him a captain,
and they should have.
Remember that show? Everybody Hates Chris. They should make a show called Everyone Hates Brandon.
I don't understand it, man. He is.
I don't get it.
Exactly what I would want from a football player.
I just feel like a trade would be better for both sides. I think it's very much like the AJ Brown situation. AJ Brown was getting about 100 targets a year on the Titans. They want to run the ball with Derrick Henry. He got traded to the Eagles and he started getting 150 targets a year. And they still haven't won the Super Bowl, but at least they can say that they're getting some bang for their buck.
If this is Deebo's last year with the 49ers, do you still feel
what makes you think it is, man? He's like great friends with Kyle Shanahan. Great friend.
Because dude's about to be 30 years old. He's already on the decline, if we're being real. He's about to be 30.
Are we, though? Is Kyle? Kyle gave him 11 targets in the Super Bowl. How real is Kyle?
Well, he went
11.
3 for 11 on those targets, so they need to wake up in regards
Yeah,
to that.
you thought you'd think after like the 7th or 8th target, Kyle would be like, you know what, this isn't working. I'm going to go somewhere else. But no, he believed in Deebo.
Yeah, that is his boy. I mean,
his boy.
I could, from that perspective, yeah, it makes sense. But from an actual like, let's watch football games. Deebo Samuel should be, because he can. There's an out for him after this year. He's very expensive. I would roll with BA. I'd roll one more year with Deebo. Then he's about to be 30 years old. Do they really think a 30-year-old Deebo should be in their plans for the future? I don't see that.
Would you rather spend, I mean, what Ayuk's going to get is like 28 million dollars a year. That's like what Trent Williams is making. He's going to get franchise left tackle money. So would you want it? Would you rather spend franchise left tackle money on Brandon Aiyuk or trade him for a franchise left tackle if you can?
I would do it. I would do it.
We talked about it. We talked about
it.
Maybe they won't have the option. Maybe they won't have the option.
Yeah.
But if they do,
I mean, to me, the receivers are the new running backs in a way, right? Like, it's not that hard to find a good receiver. I hate to say that. I mean, Brandon Aiyuk's kind of the perfect player, but you can find good receivers. There's a lot in this draft. So, again, I understand either way, no matter which way they go. I would just, my gut feeling says they're going to roll with this BA. I think they'd rather have that BA contract, because reality is $27 million a year with BA. That really doesn't hit you until 2 years from now. And at that point, that'll probably be a bargain for Brandon Aiyuk. You know, receivers are probably getting 30+ million at that.
Yeah,
when that happens. He already makes 30 million. You know.
Yeah. Still, though, I mean, you can get wide receivers. He's really good, but there's always really good wide receivers. It's hard to get left tackles, and they inherited Joe Staley. They drafted Mike McGlinchey at 9, thinking he could become a left tackle. He couldn't. And then they got bailed out by Washington being Washington and blowing up their relationship with Trent Williams.
Are you trying to win a Super Bowl this year by trading Brandon Aiyuk?
I mean, yeah. Okay, and I'm going to explain why. Because if you trade Brandon Aiyuk, let's say you trade Brandon Aiyuk for Fatanu, and you start him at guard for a year, and then you trade down from 31 and take a wide receiver like 35 or 36 or something like that, where you took Deebo, you still have the best group of weapons in the league. You still do, with Deebo and Kittle and Juwan Jennings and McCaffrey and rookie wide receiver taken at the top of round 2. You still do. And now your offensive line's a lot better. A lot better. Yes, you just got better.
When I look at the 49ers, when I look at the 49ers wide receivers, I see one receiver on this whole team, which is Brandon Aiyuk. Juwan Jennings, he's okay. He's more of like a possession. He's like a skinny tight end. Deebo Samuel's not really a wide receiver. They have one receiver on this team, and that's Brandon Aiyuk, and you're going to get rid of
Kittle's
him.
A receiver.
Kittle's
a receiver. I mean, Kittle should be getting more targets anyway. He gets like 90 a season. He should be getting. I mean, when Kelsey was his age at 30, 31, he was getting 150 targets a season. If Kittle were on the Chiefs, he'd be getting 150 targets a season. Like, there's more there for him. Yeah, I agree with you on Deebo Samuel. McCaffrey's getting a ton of reps, like a ton of touches. And I'm assuming the wide receiver they would take wouldn't be a stiff that they would get at the top of round 2.
You could be right. I mean, I understand both angles. Me personally, if I'm running an organization, I don't want to spend money on wide receivers at all. I'm focusing on the trenches, but Brandon Aiyuk really is. He feels like DeForest Buckner. That's what this feels like to me. You're trading DeForest Buckner again, and you're rolling with Armstead and Kinlaw. Like, that's what this feels like to me. That's my worry. You get rid of Brandon Aiyuk, who is literally the perfect receiver damn near. I mean, maybe he could be a little faster. Other than that, he does everything you want from him. You're moving on from that to get Kinlaw or rolling it all on Deebo, who is Armstead. Like, that's what this feels like. That situation all over again.
I agree. I think there's a lot of parallels to that situation. It just seems like that situation would have worked out fine if they had taken the offensive tackle. But instead, they were dead set on taking a player to replace the player they drafted. And if they do that, I think that's a mistake. If they trade Brandon Aiyuk so they can move up to 17 and take another wide receiver, like, well, that young man's going to be compared to Brandon Aiyuk the rest of his career, and he's not going to be better than Brandon Aiyuk anytime soon, and that's a tough one. But if you trade up for a franchise left tackle, You could win that trade.
Are they gun shy about moving up for Mike, or not moving up, but drafting Mike McGlinchey? Do they regret doing that? Because did they get their drafts worth out of getting Mike McGlinchey? Did they learn, hey, let's not do that. Let's wait for a Rosengarten in the second, because we got a 5th rounder, a 4th rounder, an undrafted guy, all on our right side right now, and they work just fine.
Possible.
Right? That could be their
You don't want to trade you don't want to trade up to 17. You don't want to trade Brandon Aiyuk for a right tackle, a guy who can't replace Trent Williams one day.
Yeah.
But if you really feel like this guy isn't like McGlinchey, this guy is a left tackle, and that's why I think Fatano makes sense, because he legitimately played left tackle in college. Maybe you do it. Because again, how are you going to replace Trent Williams? What's the plan there? It's not Jalen Moore.
I think for me, the thing is, I would be thrilled with what you're talking about, but I think it's okay. Admit that this is kind of a retooling year then, because to me, if you take out the only receiver on this whole team, the only real receiver on this whole team, and bet on a rookie, you're not that serious about winning the Super Bowl this year. This is
you played well as a rookie on this team. I played real well as a rookie on this team. Deebo played real well as a rookie on this team.
I'm not saying that there aren't receivers that could play well, but I'm saying you have a guy that you know is really freaking good, and you're trading him to gamble on another rookie.
The number 1 receiver on the Chiefs last year was a rookie.
Again, it's possible. And I made the argument that they're the new running backs, right? You can get them. I'm just saying that you know what you have in Brandon Aiyuk. It's a little risky to me, a little bit risky to move on.
It's also the same team that picked Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, it's Kyle. We're talking Kyle now, right? This is Kyle's thing. Kyle picked Brandon Aiyuk. Kyle picked Deebo. Kyle knows exactly what he wants from his. He also picked Dante Pettis, but I feel like he's gotten better. He also picked Danny Gray.
There's a few bad ones. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, look, no one knows. I mean, it is all a crapshoot. It's true.
Yeah,
it is true. But it doesn't mean that you need to spend. You can't extend every single person. You can't. Eventually, you can't.
Yeah.
And they've extended everyone so far.
You can't extend every person. I feel like they're extending the wrong people. Like Brandon Aiyuk is the guy you extend. That's the guy you extend. Like I've been saying it for 3 years. Like if he does everything right, if you pay Brandon Aiyuk, he doesn't seem like the type of guy that gets paid and falls off. He seems like he has that competitiveness in him. It's just who he is. He's always
okay. Well, one more argument though. Like, did he kind of have an outlier season this year? I mean, I mean, his yards per catch were way up. His completion, his yards per catch were way up. He never had a season like that before. I mean, is he really going to duplicate that on his 100 targets a season? Is he really going to put up 1,300 yards again?
I think Brandon Aiyuk could put up way more. What did he have? 7 targets?
No, he had like 100 and he had 77, like 75 catches, like 175
catches. I mean,
yeah,
his numbers could get better than they were. Maybe the yards per catch will go down, but he can get more touchdowns. He can have more
volume.
He could have more volume.
Yeah,
definitely. He's not even his peak yet. I think Brandon is going to be better over these next 2 years than he was this past year.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Jay Morris says AB to Washington for picks 36 and 40. AB.
What am I thinking?
Antonio Brown?
Maybe my BA.
Andres Bedrins?
I think he means BA.
Okay.
That's actually not a bad idea to me.
Mm-hmm. This is really
not. I mean, and I know I've been saying, like, you know, you got to have a first rounder for BA, but 36 and a 40 is like what, a 15 or a 14 first round draft pick. Like combine the worth of that, and you can get a lot of really good. If you have pick 31, 36, and 40, that's like you can clean up right there. You know?
Yeah, you could. Kenny Blake, do you think Brandon for Surtain? No brainer.
That's another contract, though. Yeah, they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay corners.
No,
they don't want to pay corners, and you know why they don't want to pay corners? Because they haven't paid a single corner. All their corners are on 1-year contracts. They're not going to pay Ward this year. I don't think they'll ever pay Ward. I think this is last year with Charvarius Ward. To be honest, they're trying to pay Deebo, but they're all on 1-year contracts. They're not going to trade one expensive contract for another old corner.
Matt McEwen says, excuse for Rosengarten at 31. We wanted a 5th-year option. I just feel like it'd be kind of rich to take Rosengarten in round 1 after what Kyle said, after what Lynch said today. Brother Bob says, Ryan is right. We only have BA equals real wide receiver. Kyle Levy is,
Cheeks.
What is that? Cheeks. Brother Bob says, can't compare KC to us. They have Reed and Mahomes. I'm just talking about ways to build championship rosters. To be fair, Deebo got paid off of one good season. Yeah, and they regret it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Okay, more things from the press conference. John Lynch said that the front office gave out 170 draftable grades to the players entering the draft. There are 260 something picks. The Niners have 4 picks after number 170.
Yeah.
They got 176. Hold on. They got 176, 211, 215, 251.
Here's what that means.
Like, what's the point of having those picks this year?
Yeah, they basically you're the only players that are worth drafting are in the first 5 rounds to them.
Seems like it.
So what that means probably is they're going to be moving up a lot, not necessarily in the first round, but and possibly in the first round, but throughout the draft. I anticipate them. Really in round 2, like if let's say they stay at 31 and they don't draft an offensive lineman, I really think they're going to move up in round 2 to make sure they get Rosengarten. I can see that, but I can see it throughout. What it basically means, and this is the 49ers too, like there's not a lot of open positions available on this team, so they're going to be really going after the guys in their first 5 rounds and giving up all their back end picks to do that. That's one thing it definitely means to me.
Yeah, it was interesting how he revealed this. He kind of was saying like, look, we do like trading down, but this isn't really the year to do it because there isn't a lot of talent at the back end of the draft. So everyone's going to want to trade up, and that means it's not going to be easy to trade up because it just seems like what he's saying is no one's going to want my picks in round 6 and 7. No one wants these. They're worthless. Can't trade up. So they're going to take, what are they going to be drafting for the practice squad in round 6? Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys probably won't make the team. And he was talking about how a lot of them will go back to college for the NIL money, which is interesting. That's a new dynamic.
You can make more money in college than you can as like a 7th round pick.
Yeah. Might as well go back. Yeah. It's a new dynamic that is changing the NFL. For teams like the 49ers that have a loaded roster, it's okay. They'll be fine with that because what's the odds of these guys making the team anyways if they're drafted in the 6th, 7th round? So I think they're going to use those picks to try and move up. That's what I think happens.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. The Niners are like revealing certain things about their process this offseason. Like they thought there were going to be 80 more draftable players than there were, and they were kind of surprised about it. And they thought they were going to be able to sign Brock Wright away from the Lions, but then the Lions matched the last minute and they seemed kind of surprised about it. I don't know. I mean, we always wondered what Adam Peters did for this team. And I'm not saying he's great or the Niners can't do anything without him, but it does seem like they've made some curious missteps without him.
Looking at the last couple of drafts, I mean, Adam Peters didn't do much. I mean,
it's true.
If he was helping out. What else is funny about this too is they only have a certain amount of grades of draftable players in this draft.
Right.
The best player from 2 years ago was Brock Purdy. The only real guy on the team.
And if they gave him a draftable grade.
Right. I'm sure they didn't. They probably didn't. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, that's the whole point. You have to have integrity with your grading process, right? So if you say there's 22 first round grades that we give as the San Francisco 49ers based on our standard, and then you take someone in round 1 who doesn't have one of those grades, and what does that say about your grading system? It's worthless. So you made the system. You talked about it publicly. You kind of have to honor it if it means anything. And they've had this gold helmet system since Balky was there. Like it's been a feature of their scouting department front office for years. So I think it's something that they take seriously. Just gonna put it out there.
Who do you think? Give me one player you think's on their gold helmet list. You got any ideas?
Troy Fautanu.
Fautanu. Yeah.
Fautanu. I think they like Joe Alt, even though I don't. Because he's Mike McGlinchey 3.0, 2.0. McKivitz is 2.0, so he's 3.0.
I would say Rosengarten's probably on that list.
Better not be.
I would say he is.
He's not a first-round talent.
I really think he is. Graham Barton's probably on that list. That's another guy who's a center who might be available.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is definitely a gold helmet player.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. I'm looking forward to this draft on Thursday. They got a lot of. They could go a million different directions. It's very hard to predict.
I'm just waiting for this Brandon Aiyuk. And real quick, since we need to transition to our sponsor real quick, since Brandon Aiyuk is officially getting, you didn't hear it, but Brandon Aiyuk's getting traded, psych, in a couple of days. Time to give away the Brandon Aiyuk jersey once and for all, because it's about to become a collector's item. And I tried to give it away to someone, but they never got back to my email, probably because they thought it wasn't really me, but it was me. And you missed out on your opportunity. So if you want to get in on this action, make some sleeper picks. It's sleeper pick time. And we got basketball night. You gonna be watching?
The only thing I care about at this point, I'll watch the finals, and I do want to watch the last game where the Lakers lose to the Nuggets, because I'm a Lakers
That'll be fun.
hater. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Tonight we got Lakers in Denver, Philly in New York, and Orlando and Cleveland. So we could just pick like 4 players randomly from. I like that. Like, let's have like at least one player in each game, so we have spread out action. Because it means a lot to me.
Okay,
I want to get these picks right.
All right, let's do it. Are we gonna get? Do we need to be a little less selfish?
No.
Like, should we do 3 picks instead of 4 or 5, so we can have more of a chance of winning?
That's a good point. Yeah, let's do one from each game.
Okay.
So from LA and Denver, we want to do LeBron. You want to do Jokic? How do you feel?
Let's mess with LeBron, man.
LeBron. 25.5 points, 8.5 assists.
What else we got?
7.5 rebounds. 1.5 threes.
I'd go. I don't know. I feel like LeBron relies on the 3 quite a bit these days. Well, how many threes has he been hitting?
Let's see.
Do you have that data?
He had 3 in the last game.
That's probably what I would do.
Over?
Yeah.
More?
Yeah, over. Yeah.
More? Okay. More on LeBron. Orlando and Cleveland. Franz Wagner. Paulo Banchero.
These teams.
Who you want?
These teams are.
Huh?
2 really good teams.
Mitchell.
Mitchell's. Yeah, what did his numbers look like?
4.5 assists. That seems like a lot for him. We got points. I don't know. Points and assists. I don't see it. Points and rebounds.
Points and rebounds. I would probably go under that. Points and rebounds. 35.
How else are they going to score? But I feel like Donovan Mitchell kind of blows it in the playoffs consistently.
Yeah, I think I would.
Let's bet against. Let's pick against Mitchell. Just on principle. Yeah. Okay, is Embiid playing?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a little bitter because the Warriors lost. I see Jesse in the chat talking trash. I'm a little bitter ever. Brunson's a baller, man. What's that? What are we looking at?
30.5 points.
Over.
Boom. Those are our picks. LeBron James, more than 1.5 threes. Donovan Mitchell, less than 30.5 points and rebounds combined. And Jalen Brunson, more than 30.5 points. $10 to make 44.60 potentially.
That's $44 in our pockets.
In our pockets. And you want this Brandon Aiyuk on your body? Use promo code Cohn, COHN. Get that deposit match up to $500. My goodness, $500. Okay. Chris Sims made a bold prediction today. What did he say?
He said that the 49ers are going to pick Roger Rosengarten with the 31st pick. And, well, first of all, people are like, well, that's Kyle Shanahan's friend. He knows what he's talking about. That's like, if he's his friend, why would he say that? Right? Like, if Grant's like, Ryan, don't tell anybody, but blah, blah, blah. And I go to Twitter. Guess what Grant just told me? I don't believe it for a minute that they're going to get Roger Rosengarten at 31. I think that's a smokescreen. If he really does know what they want to do, which I doubt, he wouldn't say it. And if Kyle told him this, it's because he wants him to say it. They're not going to get Rosengarten at 31. If they get Rosengarten with their first pick, it's because they moved down. Rosengarten is a huge reach at 31.
Well, let's go full on tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. Okay.
Let's do it.
They're going to take Rosengarten at 31, and they know it,
Okay.
and they know it's a huge reach. But they're going to you're going to do it for for whatever reasons. They want the 5th year option. They don't want to risk. They like him. He fits their system. They don't have a problem taking him at 31, but they know everyone's going to crush him. So they're leaking. Hey, we might take Rosengarten, and why don't you tell people it'd be a good pick? I don't know. Full tinfoil hat there. But
it's reversed,
if you sort of condition people to the pick before it happens, there's less shock. And Mel Kiper's been picking it for months. Chris Sims joins the party. I can see it making sense.
It's the reverse psychology, right? Yep. Let's tell people that we want Rosengarten, so they think we're not really going to get Rosengarten, so we can actually get Rosengarten.
Exactly. Yeah. Reverse psychology. It's really, really advanced. And remember he talked today about like in bloodlines and all that. Well, he's not related to anyone, but he played for McCaffrey and he's working with Joe Staley. And at Washington, they did run a lot of outside zone. So he's theoretically fits the offense, and Lynch and Forrester were at the pro day. But that's why I feel like the dark horse move, the move that people can't under the radar move is Fatana.
Maybe
because he goes to the same school. Just saying. So they could be like
bloodline
looking into Rosengarten, but really be looking into Fatana.
I think the bloodline thing was about Luke McCaffrey. I will not be surprised if 49ers get Luke McCaffrey because of the bloodline thing. But
is McCaffrey that important that they would just draft his brother? I mean, like, look, if the final 4 picks aren't even draftable players anyway, just get Luke's brother, Jerry Rice's son, Frank Gore's son, and just make everyone happy.
All that matters. Yeah. That's all that matters. I could see them getting Luke McCaffrey. He seems like 49ers love them some white skill players, and Luke McCaffrey was one, right? So they're the Utah Jazz of NFL teams. I could see them getting,
they're Duke.
I can see they're basically Yale of NFL teams. I could see them getting Luke McCaffrey later on in rounds, but
the Bucks have Giannis's brother just cause,
yeah.
That's what's gonna happen.
And if anyone drafts LeBron's son, it's gonna be just so LeBron comes over there because he's not good enough to be in the NBA either. But that's a different point. Back to our boy Roger Rosengarten. I believe they want to draft him, but not with the 31st pick. Or if they move up, not with that pick. If they pick in the first round, it will not be Roger Rosengarten, but they're going to do everything they can to get him in the second. That's what I believe. I don't believe that Chris Sims, if he was really told that from Kyle Shanahan, why would he go out and say that? Why would he just publicly announce that if that's really what he's told? He also said Mac Jones was getting drafted by the 49ers as well.
Yeah. I just feel like everyone's put together this. Once you hear that Roger Rosengarten played in an offense that had the outside zone and his high school coach was Ed McCaffrey and he's working out with Joe Staley, it's like, oh, boom. And John Lynch was at the pro day. It just feels like it's a lock and a key, but I don't know about it. I mean, in round 1, that wouldn't be a good pick, even if they tried to sell it as one. And then what was interesting today about John Lynch talking about the offensive lineman, what did he say? He said what's interesting about this year's crop is that they have a lot of flexibility. Guys who can play multiple positions. That's not Rosengarten. That's Fatanu. And they need a guy who's flexible because they don't have necessarily a starting spot at offensive tackle available, ready right now. But they do it right guard, and they could tackle next year. So a player who has a little flexibility would appeal to them. And that's not Rosengarten. So I don't know.
He also said though he's focused on he didn't say the wording is a little strange, but he talked about the interior of the offensive line versus tackle, right? And there's a lot of guys that have flexibility to play center and guard and maybe a little tackle, but there's a lot of guys that could go back from center to guard, and there are a lot more talented players at that position at 31 than going after Rosengarten. I feel like you could get a really good guard, really good center at that spot, and then move up in the second round and also get Rosengarten, and you could walk away with 2. That's what I would be trying to do over getting Rosengarten at 31. I think that's a huge reach. He's good. He's a good scheme fit. He's not just very talented though. And I think if they reach up to 31 to get him, I think that's going to, I don't see that as a good move when there's defensive tackles in this draft. Like what if Byron Murphy falls down? What if Darius Robinson, who's an edge, but could also play a little D tackle? What if he's there? What if Kool-Aid McKinstry drops down and he's available, and you're going to pass those. What if Jackson Powers Johnson is available, or Graham Barton is available, and you're going to screw all those guys? I'm getting Roger Rosengarten at 31. I just don't see it.
No, that's how you have a bad record in the first round. Yeah, absolutely. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
That's our official.
Cool. Yeah.
Huh?
Second round, I'm cool with it. There's some real dudes that'll be available to me at 31.
Well, actually, what I'd like to say is I'd be really disappointed if they pick at 31. I'd like to see him trade up or trade back. One or the other. Don't stay at 31 because you told us you only got 22 first round grades. Go get one of your first round grade players or get the hell out. Don't gaslight.
That's why I do like that option. If they are going to trade BA, that's why I like that Washington option almost too, because you can get some really good dudes. If you went 31, 34, and 46 or whatever it is, those are 3 good dudes that could actually start. You could find a receiver, a defensive tackle, and one of these guards or centers, or get Rosengarten with that pick. That's what I would do.
Matt McEwen says they drafted a kicker in the 3rd. All draft logic when it comes to the Niners is Pandora's box logic.
That's true.
Moody's a great player, so bite your tongue, Matt. Sleeper picks isn't allowed in New York. Oh, that's too bad. New York needs to get with the times. Right, I know Matt McEwen's in New York. Okay. Yeah. I asked John Lynch what the team's biggest needs were, which seems like a kind of a throwaway question, but I figure he's not going to answer it, but let's see what he says. And he says some interesting things. He said, not necessarily something for this year. It could be something for next year. And he also said that there may be a few positions that the Niners feel they could upgrade with new starters that other people wouldn't realize. What do you think the Niners' biggest needs are?
So they have needs that are in reference to what he said. They have needs for next year, right? And for years moving forward. And then they also have needs right now, to me. But those two needs coincide to me. The biggest need on this 49ers for right now, the biggest need on the 49ers for right now, this year, to me, is defensive tackle. They got to find a guy. I mean, the guys they brought over from the Texans, I just don't think that those are actual dudes. And to me, they need to find a real guy. Like Darius Robinson would be great. Byron Murphy. Those 2 guys, I would really want to see the 49ers. If they can get either one of those guys at 31, I think that's a great move. So that's the biggest need to me. Hargrave is getting older. The other guys they brought in, I believe, are on 1-year contracts. I believe Elliott might be on a 2-year contract. So they really have nothing in the future at defensive tackle. Their worst. The thing they did worst last year out of everything was stop the run. They could not stop the run for nothing. That was the worst thing about the team, right? They ran good. They were fine in passing on offense. On defense, the worst thing they did was stop the run. That's the biggest need for this team to me. And if Byron Murphy's there, it's a no-brainer. You grab him. Darius Robinson, who is an edge but could also move inside. I would think you go after players like that. And then the other one is a need offensive line. And they got to come away with a real dude, not necessarily a starter this year, but they got to start investing in the offensive line because they haven't done it in a long time. And that could be a center, a guard. Doesn't have to necessarily be a right tackle, although I hope that gets addressed as well. But if they walk away from the draft with a starter D tackle for this year and then an offensive lineman for the future, to me, those are the 2 greatest needs. And I'll walk away happy if they get that.
I can see how defensive tackle is a need. I still feel like I'm going to look at it this way. I mean, is the Niners defensive line good enough to win a Super Bowl? I would say yeah. And if you went around the team, every position group, which position group would you say no to? To me, it's the offensive line. I think when they get there, when they're at the final stage, their offensive line falls apart. Like they couldn't run the ball in the Super Bowl. They couldn't pick up pressure in the Super Bowl. It wasn't all the offensive line's fault, but I don't think it's good enough. Maybe 2/5 of it is. So if they could get any type of a big upgrade on the offensive line at any position, that would be huge. And then when it comes to the second one, D tackle for sure, improve the run defense, maybe the linebacker. But what you said earlier in the show, They got one wide receiver on the team, and he may not be on the team that much longer. We don't know. It'd be nice to get another wide receiver, one who isn't half a running back or, kind of a tight end blocking hybrid like Jawan Jennings, just like a wide receiver.
It wouldn't surprise me if the 49ers got a receiver at 31, even if they kept BA. Even if they keep BA, I could see them getting wide. Like if Adonai Mitchell is there, I can see the 49ers really liking him and drafting him as well. There's another guy, Ruke Arojoho, who's a defensive tackle that the 49ers could really grab as well. There's a lot of – I feel like the first pick is going to be defensive tackle, but my second guess would be receiver. That's what I think from what the 49ers are going to do, either defensive tackle or receiver. It's not necessarily what I would do, but I could see the 49ers grabbing one of those two positions. But I'm with you. Like I've been saying it last year, the greatest need for this team is offensive line. They haven't invested in a long time, and that's going to hurt them. If it doesn't hurt them this year, it's going to hurt them next year if they don't really invest in it this year. But I think they're going to go more after interior players and try to get Rosengarten in the second round. If they don't get Rosengarten in the second round and they don't grab a tackle in the first rounds, they might not even get a tackle. Honestly, they might focus on guards and centers.
It makes sense. Absolutely. And they said they're going to be drafting for next year. They're going to need a guard next year. Aaron Banks going to be a free agent. Matt McEwen says prediction: Niners move up to Dallas, pick 24, draft JPJ.
JPJ. Oh, the center? Is that Jackson Powers Johnson? Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I could see it being a possibility. Yeah.
Could see it being a possibility. Do you trust the 49ers to draft well? Sort of what it comes down to.
No. I hate to say that. They do okay. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they do okay. But they usually do better in later rounds. And John Lynch himself said later rounds this year is not very good. That's where they usually have success. They hit on late round draft picks. I mean, last year, who they get? They got Jair Brown and Moody, which was good. We'll see about Bill and Winters and Luter, possible. We'll see about Braden Willis, maybe Ronnie Bell. But there's no real dudes in that draft. And those round guys, they didn't start till the third round. So I don't know. The year before that, all they got was Brock Purdy out of that equation. So as of recent, I mean, the year before that, they traded 3 first-round draft picks for Trey Lance, who's not even on the team anymore. So no, I don't have a lot of confidence that the 49ers are going to draft well. Peters left. Peter's got all this credit. I know a lot of people that we know that love him and talk to him and say he's great. But I mean, wasn't he the guy that's supposed to be crowned like the king of this stuff? And he did a horrible job. So yeah, I don't know. Was he holding Lynch back and Kyle back? I doubt that. I think this is more of them, especially in the early rounds. So no, I don't have confidence that they draft well.
Me neither. Like, what do we know about the Niners? They haven't drafted well the last 2 years, with the exception of Brock Purdy and Jair Brown. 2 good players the last 2 years. They've admitted that it's a top-heavy draft, that the depth isn't there, and most of their picks are later in the draft. So
here's another way you know. Here's another way you know they're not good at drafting, because what they did to get Trey Lance would have had 99% of the rest of the GMs and coaches fired. If they traded 3 first-round draft picks for a quarterback that was off your team 2 years later, almost every other GM and coach in the NFL would be fired for that.
You know what's funny about Brock Purdy? It's pretty heady stuff, but do you think he walks around the organization when he sees Kyle, when he sees John? Do you think part of him understands that he saved their job?
Oh, he's got to.
He has to, right? Like, those guys wouldn't be here anymore if Brock Purdy didn't exist or had been drafted by another team. Yeah. Like, they'd be gone.
I would love to hear what his agent's going to say after this coming year when Brock Purdy's negotiating for a contract. I wonder if his agent brings that up. You owe your job to my client, so you better pay him handsomely, right?
Yeah, it's the truth. Yeah. That Trey Lance mistake would have ruined him, but Brock Purdy exists, and so they're all good. He even said it today, like, "Ha, we got Mr. Irrelevant, so it's no big problem." Like, so you better give him all the money.
He said, remember, and it was funny because Matt Melko brought it up in this press conference. He said, you said if you're wrong about Trey Lance, you'll be fired. And he was wrong about Trey Lance, right? When they drafted Trey Lance, he said, if you move 3 picks to go get a quarterback and you don't nail it, you're going to be fired. John Lynch said that about himself, ended up not being fired. But so when I say that any other coach, any other GM would be fired for that, John Lynch himself said that. So
I mean,
yeah,
we were
that leads me
this
to believe
close.
they're not good.
We were this close to the Niners choosing between the backup quarterback for the Rams and the third string quarterback for the Cowboys for their starter. We were this close. I mean, it was that position for a long time. And then Brock Purdy came through and changed everything.
Thank goodness for Brock Purdy.
Thank goodness for Brock Purdy. Khalil Kemp at the buzzer. How long until Jed takes a victory lap for getting the most out of the Trey Lance trade in comparison to the other 2021 quarterbacks?
Yeah. What they
A
see?
year. Maybe less.
Kyle Wilson just got traded to the Broncos today.
Zach Wilson. Do you think Sean Payton's going to do anything with him?
No, I don't like Sean Payton at all. And the only thing that's good for Zach Wilson, man, is that Denver's about as close as you can get to Utah.
Right.
If you're on an NFL team, that's more of his environment. New York was never a good fit for a guy from Draper, Utah.
No. So yeah, he gets to go to a smaller market where there will be less scrutiny. Although the Broncos have a rabid fan base. It's not like he's on the Cardinals.
Yeah. No, I don't see it working out. Is he like their plan? Like who's their quarterback?
They'll probably draft someone, but you just don't know. Sean Payton.
Yeah, it's funny. He insulted the former coach for the Broncos, whatever his name was, who's now the coordinator on the Jets, right? And then so he took the team from that coach. What's the coach's name? He's the coach for Denver before.
And now he takes the quarterback from him. Maybe he just respects what a great job he did coaching him. Maybe he called up Hackett and asked for a recommendation. Hey, Nathaniel. Sorry about what I said, but I need your help.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah.
I think that guy's a bust, man. Zach Wilson. And he's had way more chances than Trey Lance has. People call Trey Lance a bust already. I'd take Trey Lance all day and every day on Sunday.
I love how Ryan said it he's like, hey, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Zach Wilson's a bust. Like, yeah, I would say so too. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. Was that a risky
take? He freaking sucks.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Can't say that about Trey Lance yet.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. Zach Wilson,
maybe one. Yeah.
Freaking sucks.
He does.
Clinical term. Not a gold helmet guy.
Trey Lance might be the best quarterback out of that draft. He might end up maybe Trevor Lawrence, but he might be better than Fields. He might be better than Wilson when it's all said and done. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the show. Thanks for watching. The draft is in 3 days, so I guess we'll see what happens. Will the Niners move up? Will they move out? Will they trade Brandon Aiyuk? We'll find out.
What's your final take, man? Is BA getting traded? Yes or no?
I think he's getting traded. I think they will trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Jaguars, and I think Fatana will be there, and they'll draft Fatana. I think he'll drop because he's a smidge shorter than 6'4".
I think they keep Brandon Aiyuk. They draft the D tackle at 31, and they move up to get Rosengarten in the second. That's my predictions.
Lock it in. Khalil Kemp. What should the first banner say that I fly over Levi's this season?
Oh, man. I don't know. Thank you, Brock Purdy. Or Brock Purdy saved your job.
I like that. That works.
That's a good one. Yeah.
See you guys. Good show.